If you're here to make villager trading a whole lot easier, then you're in the right place. But I do want to mention there's a link at the top left of the screen in one of the description you can click to see some other more interesting things that I do. But we're going to go ahead and move on and start making this guy right here, which will help you deal with these guys because nobody likes dealing with these guys. You can see everything that is kind of going on in this area. You really don't need much of a material list because it was designed to be super simple. But I'm going to go over a couple little things here just in case, such as the fact that you do need beds. Technically, you only need three, but I have four for symmetry. You need about 20 trapdoors plus one per villager you want to store in this thing. Each villager needs their own trapdoor. You need six signs, two water buckets, obviously all of the workstations that you want to have under these guys, although you don't need them right now. You can acquire them as you go and get them later. It's not absolutely required that you have them at the moment. And we'll go over that later. But that's pretty much it, really. Once you have the workstations and trapdoors and beds, you're kind of good to go. Guess you need crops too. The first step is to go ahead and just make your farm, which you all pretty much already know how to do. You will need a hoe. I can place down farmland directly, which is cool, but you get the idea. Just make your farm using whatever crop. Make sure you put the composter in the middle, piece of glass on top, and then after you've gotten it all sorted and you've gotten it as far as you want it, which typically is a 9 by 9, go ahead and border it around with whatever blocks you choose. In my case, I'm just using these because, well, they're kind of pretty. And it'll look something like this when you're done. Now, keep in mind, you might want to wait to put the crops in until after you've got your villagers in and everything is kind of set up already, at least to a decent point, because it could get frustrating to have to keep tilling soil that you or your villagers trample by jumping up and down on things. But it is what it is. I already did it now just to save myself time later because, well, I'm in creative and I don't have to worry about the trampling. But go ahead and break these blocks out as you just saw me do and make the little chamber, whatever you want to call it, for the beds. Now, these beds do not need to be in this exact location. They can be wherever you want. The bottom line is the villagers have to believe that they can get to them. So that's why we need trapdoors. And if you haven't seen my video or anybody else's about villager tactics and how to deal with them, there's a link in the description to mine. You may not know that trapdoors are invisible to mobs of all kinds, not only villagers, but yeah. So when you put the beds behind a double trapdoor like this, or even just one because they're adults, won't matter, they can't get through the gap, they believe they can walk through it, which means they can pathfind to these beds. They believe they can get in them, and because of that, they will breed. So even though they can't get there, they think they can, and that's good enough. This next bit is a lot easier to think about if you just remember the number 3, because if you find the center and break out 3 blocks here, break 3 blocks out here, break 3 blocks down, total of 3 blocks, not 3 more blocks, and then 3 more blocks here to the each side, and then just make this 3 blocks deep everywhere. Kind of easy to remember. That was not intentional. The number 3 just kind of popped up. Now go ahead and grab some of those trap doors, and we're going to put some here. I like to have them there because I think it looks better than the dirt. There's not strictly necessary because the drop here is not far enough for any mob to take damage. So the babies that will come through are not going to avoid it like the plague. They're still going to jump down here just fine. So if you don't want them, those are fine. Save yourself a little bit of wood. I just like the way that looks. These are required because these prevent the adults that are inside breeding from getting out and falling into the same chamber. But we'll just set those up like that and be done with it. Now we're going to go ahead and make 3 blocks more here, but only 2 in this area, and duplicate that on both sides. And then we're going to go up top, basically right above this, in line with this guy, and we're going to go out 6 blocks. And in here, 3 blocks. Do that on both sides as well. I can count, that's 6. And then we're going to go below over here and we're going to put in more trapdoors on the bottom and the top. Now, these are important. It is important that these are closed because then the babies and the other adults as they grow can't actually get out. They believe they can, which is important, but they can't because they can't actually walk through trapdoors. Then on the top two trapdoors of both sides, go ahead and put it in 4 of your 6 signs. And then up top, right here on the block that is the first block that is beyond it. So the fourth block in the row, put a sign right there and put a sign right there. And then go ahead and cover all the other blocks with glass. Now you can go ahead and grab your water and put them right there so they're flowing. You guys know what these are for. Well, you can guess probably. And then you're going to go over here. Basically, you're going to skip one row because this wall needs to be a wall. Babies can't get out. We need them to not get out. But then you're going to break 2 blocks down for as big area as you want. Now, the size of the area is going to depend on how many villagers you want to keep in the area. How many different villagers should get a profession from this setup? In this case over here, we've only got what, 3 rows of 5? So we got about room for 15 villagers in something this size, which is almost all the books that you can get. Personally, I think there's 19 books that I get from librarians, and then I like toolsmiths and stuff. So I'd probably do 4 or 5 rows of each, get 25 villagers, and just call it a day. But it's your call, really. 2 blocks down and out as far as you need for all of the villagers that you want. Now, I do recommend leaving a space of 3 here, but technically you can put these villager cells wherever you want. In some occasions, the villagers can pop out and actually land on top of the hitbox of another villager and actually fall in the same hole, which is why I recommend a distance of 3. We're also going to put some stuff in these couple spots here in a little bit. So it just kind of makes it a little cleaner and makes it look a little bit better. But what you're going to do is basically find your starting point, in my case, 3 blocks, and then we're going to start right here. And you're going to go down 2 blocks and put a trapdoor and basically skip a block every time. It's not an exact checkerboard pattern because you're not alternating here and here. It's just you're skipping a block in both directions. So no matter what, you've just got a 1 block distance to another hole. And you're going to repeat this throughout the entire area. It should look something like this when you're finished, which I'm sure you saw over there, so you kind of got the idea, but just to show you the empty side, I guess. But this is the point at which if you haven't added your villagers in, we know it takes a while for them to start farming and start breeding. You can put them in right now. And them wandering wherever they're going to wander isn't really going to break anything. There's a couple other little elements where they could escape, such as when we do these little side parts. If you want to wait for that, so be it. But at the moment, they will grow, they will wander. They won't seek out these yet, which they will eventually, but we'll deal with that later. And it's not going to hurt anything if they are just wandering around. And they will also sometimes just stumble inside of one, which also will not hurt anything. So really go ahead and do that if you want, and we can move on with stuff. Now with these doors, we're going to go out, just basically leave the wall for the villagers that jump in. So they don't, wander too far and get hurt or whatever. Some people would prefer them to get hurt. I know one of those people. But we're going to go out and basically make it so you drop down 3 times. Okay, and we're going to do that on both sides. It's not strictly necessary to do it on both sides, but I've mentioned before, I like symmetry, so we're doing it on both sides, even though it's not necessary. But if you do it on both sides, you can actually dig straight across, and you'll start running into these cells here, and you'll connect with the other side, just like so. Then, all you really got to do is just kind of clear the area out. I like to make sure everything is cleared in between each of these little villager cells, because then you can see them all at a distance. It kind of looks cool, and it does help things later on when you need to start rotating trades and such. Now just go ahead and basically put a trap door just like this on either side. It can be on the top or the bottom, it doesn't matter, but I would recommend only doing one of them because the only villagers that are going to be in here are the adult ones, and they can't fit through obviously one high block gap. And they can't get through with this because they're a full 2 blocks tall, which means this trapdoor they'll hit their forehead on and they won't be able to escape. But we can walk directly under it, we being players, without any issue. So it doesn't even stop us at all. If you did too, you'd be stopped and you'd have to crouch every time you came through one of them. Kind of gets annoying that way. But top or bottom doesn't matter. I just throw one of them in there. Now, if you've already got your farm populated, theoretically, you'll have a few of these guys in here. You'll have some babies in here that are slowly growing up. Once they grow up, they will find their way to the water. They will drop down in here. And the only difference between what's happening now and what will be happening in a minute is that they're not actually seeking out the holes, except for this guy. He's really eager to get a job. Only thing you really need to do, and here's your proof, in case you didn't believe me, that villagers can't get under that. Their forehead's hitting, but we can slide right on by them. But basically, all you really need to do is put down a job block underneath the trapdoors. These guys will see it and wander directly into it and grab their job. Boop, just like so. So there's also a situation in some cases where this guy right here, he can pathfind to the job blocks. So if you have a situation where you put one down and the dude who falls in doesn't get the job, or nobody falls in at all, it might be because this guy's trying to get there. In order to solve that, just throw down another one of these. It can be any job, it doesn't matter. But as long as he's got a job, he's going to see it, he's going to grab it eventually, and your other guy will be able to get the job you put down for him. But yeah, that's basically it. You just find wherever you need to put down the job blocks, you place them underneath the trapdoors, and these guys will find all of the holes that they need to find in order to be, well, in this case, farmers, but whatever it is you need. And in order to cycle the trades, it's pretty simple. Be like, oh, I hate beetroot. What have you got now? Oh, that's much better. So if all you came here for was just to build the thing, it's now done, and you can go ahead and start cycling your trades and doing what you do. But if you want to understand a little bit more about how these mechanics work and why they are as good as they are, then feel free to stick around. I'm going to go over a couple little tidbits of things that it's also going to help you out with villagers and messing with them. And again, I do have a villager tips and tricks video that I have put together that you can also check out. Link is, of course, down in the description if you want a little bit more detail into these guys and how to make them do your bidding without pulling all of your hair out. Now, we'll start right at the beginning. We all know how farms work, or we should anyway, but in case you don't, basically, villagers will breed if they have enough food in their inventory. They will eat it. They will become what they call willing in the game. They will come together, and as long as there are enough beds in the area, meaning one per villager here plus at least one extra, which is why I say you need 3 beds and not 4. I only have 4 for symmetry, and it does kind of help because then if these guys are ready to breed and there's a little baby running around here for more than 5 minutes, they can still have another baby that can claim the other bed, and it just kind of helps that very rare bottleneck, but it's still a thing. I just think it looks better with symmetry. But that's the kind of idea here. In case you didn't know, that's how breeding works. Now, another thing is that the babies and villagers, they all like beds. Babies more so than adults because they like to jump on them. They find beds and they jump on them. Usually people use that AI, the AI of the baby, that they want to get to the bed, and that's how they lure them and drop them off a cliff. We don't do that in this case because we have something else, and that's the wandering AI. They also want to run around the entire village. So what we've got down here is a way to trick their AI into thinking that they can get anywhere. So as soon as they pick a block to move to that's outside this range, which happens pretty quickly, let's see. Let's give these guys a few little babies here. But basically, you'll see that they literally, like, already, this guy's talking to his dad real quick. He's like, oh, I want to go jump on a bed. Oh, that will happen. But eventually, he will pick a block outside this range to walk to. And as soon as he does, he will see this is a viable path, fall down, because they believe they can walk through trapdoors and run outside when they can't actually do so. Many Minecraft players are familiar with sorting babies away from adults and finding a way to make sure that the babies don't get where the adults are supposed to be. The typical way to do that is with something like this. If you have the baby stand on a pressure plate after they're born with a sign, in the second block and water above that, basically the baby's head does not touch that water. When they grow up, the forehead of the adult will, and the adult will swim, leaving any babies behind. There are situations, however, either being pushed by mobs or other various random circumstances that the babies will jump. If they jump, they will then reach the water and babies will get in. If babies got in this area, it does kind of break things a little bit and it makes it a little difficult to work with. So I had to create a different filter that is 100% baby proof. I had to baby proof the baby filter, which is just kind of weird. But the basic idea here is that we're using the jumping mechanic. There is nothing in the game except maybe if you gave them jump boost. I don't even know if that works, and I have no idea why you would do that. They really would be running on the ceiling in that case. But there's nothing in the game that can make them jump all the way up there into the water. However, adults can jump into this water right here, and they will be pushed along, which I can demonstrate because usually they do it pretty quick. Just like that. So that's the basic concept behind this idea, is that every single mob, every villager in here believes they can get through this. And because of that, they will jump. And once they jump, they get pushed up and they get pushed over. And it's pretty much baby proof because there's no way these little guys are jumping that high. But Xogue, what happens if you have way too many villagers in there? Won't they stack together and fall down the same hole? No. And this is why. If we take a look at the hitboxes here, the hitboxes are just a little bit off center because these guys are standing on trapdoors. They can't actually fall into the holes. Now, obviously, there are cramming mechanics that if there's a lot of mobs in one area, the hitboxes can sometimes combine a little bit even from the side, but it does take a lot of villagers to get to that point. And even more so if you make this area huge. It'll be a very long time before that is a problem. And chances are you'll be back here and be like, whoa, that's way too many villagers. And then you can just turn this off by either removing beds or plugging up this hole or whatever it is you want to do. But yeah, there's that. Just something to mention. Another side note about having a lot of villagers here is there is a problem, and a small one, a small issue that you guys could run into, and I don't want you guys to have that trouble. If you end up cycling their trades, granted, you don't really cycle farmers too much, but, it's same thing if you were cycling librarians as well. But if you do this and place it back down, there is a situation, if you have a lot of villagers up top, where this guy will not claim it again. He will not claim the job. And the reason for that is because the guy that's up top, or one of these guys that is up top, wants that job. One of the other ones claimed that job block as soon as you placed it. Now, the fix for this is to simply just block up these areas. If you block these up, put a block there in both, these guys will no longer be able to see the job blocks below. And if you go back to the guy who didn't get a job, was it you? I guess it was you. And break it and place it again, then hopefully he'll get the job. This is because of the AI of the villager. It's a very weird thing, but they have to believe they can get to a job site block, which, okay, that makes sense. If they believe to get down here, it's cool. You block that off. They no longer believe they can get there, and sure, that makes sense. But why do they drop down the holes? And this is where it gets weird. As long as they believe they have a path, a legitimate path, stairs and all, to get to the job site blocks, then they start to look for the shortest path, in which case that's when they see this little drop here. That's when they see the drop into the hole as the shortest path. So this is a path, but this is the shortest path. However, this shortest path does not count as a valid path, which is it's so backwards and weird, it's just nut bars. But it's kind of a thing. Hopefully that made sense, because it's getting all confusing in my own head. I hope you understood that. Now, this design does have built-in zombie protection. And what I mean is, just like the villagers can't get down into the same hole as, one of their friends, the zombies can't either, which means this guy right here, he's continually trying to get on the same Y level as this guy because that's what they like. So he's not going to be able to attack him. That said, you still want to protect it. Don't trust that. Build your walls, light it up, just be absolutely safe. But that's a built-in safeguard for it. There's also another built-in safeguard. Say you forgot to light this down here. These guys do not see any of them. They can walk around all day long and not see any of the villagers down here to kill them. So it's kind of built in for you as far as protecting your villagers from zombies. But then comes the question, but what if you want zombies to attack your villagers? See, that's where I would recommend you actually go in here and actually save the trades. I've killed a few villagers, so they don't like it much. But you save the trades, whatever it is, the ones you want, librarian, selling deep depth strider for 1 emerald, whatever the case, which doesn't happen naturally. You'd have to cure for that. But anyway, point is, once you save the trade and you find out that that is something you like, you break this guy, you put down a trapdoor, and then you can break this one. Because what this is going to do is, well, it brings him down to eye level, which means then, if you lure a zombie in, he's then seen. Now, this brings up an interesting point here with this guy. He's trying to go up the stairs for some reason, but if you block it off just like you did with the other villagers, he'll then redirect. So you can then convert these guys just as you want. Just make sure there's a block over their heads so they don't burn in daylight. Because in that epically saved librarian you got, Depth Strider, for 1 emerald. Well, he just dies. Sorry, buddy. Well, you see, every design has its downfall. There's always a weakness. I don't care what design you use, there's always going to be something that doesn't play right with others. Now, you might think the whole zombification thing is pretty important to a lot of people. I'm only going to start off by saying that I don't even use it. Because once you get an iron farm and you have toolsmiths, weaponsmiths, and armorsmiths, you just trade all that iron in and you get so many emeralds, it's ridiculous, and you don't need to cheapify them. It's what I do in every world, and I don't ever do the zombification process. But if you do want to, there is a way, it's just not perfect. Now, that way is basically to go ahead and break that bottom workstation. I do recommend you save their trade. You find the trade you want and save it. But if you could break the bottom one and then break the top of these, it will drop these guys down. Then you got to make sure you go up top and actually, plug the holes, because their friends can totally run into the cell at that point in time. And you might as well do it with something that blocks light because, that guy, bye, you didn't get out. Because if you don't do it with something that can block light, well, they'll burn in daylight. Then you also want to block both of these before you lure in the zombie, because obviously, 1, he'll target these guys, and 2, there's this weird pathing mechanic that if he's targeting this guy, he'll actually try to run upstairs to get him, and it's super weird, and I don't know, their mechanics. Like I said, the zombification stuff is not perfect, but it does work if you want to do that, and you can do it with as many of these guys as you want, as long as you, kind of plan out exactly who or how many of these guys you want to zombify, and make sure you block their overhead so they don't burn in daylight, and make it so their friends can't get into their cells with them, and so on and so forth. As long as you do just like this, there's a lot of them. Okay, my point is, it's not perfect. Okay, this is the fault of this place, but it is possible. If you did this particular setup and then brought a zombie down here, he will target all of them that he can see. And then, of course, he's burning because that's a thing. But you get the idea. Now, aside from that weakness, I still think this thing is among my favorite builds ever because, like I said, I don't use the zombification process anyway, so it's perfect for me. And if you do what I said, it'll be perfect for you as well without the whole iron farm and stuff. But A lot of people like the zombification. And in that regard, I do apologize that I couldn't make that a little more smooth. It becomes very, very complicated with a setup like this. But it is basically automatic, okay? You can go and get their trades, have your villagers fall in and choose their first job without any trouble, literally zero interaction from the player, and these guys will find every single job in that you set down, and you don't have to be there. And once that's a thing, once they've chosen their jobs, it's super easy to come down here, be quiet, and rotate their jobs. You literally can just keep doing this over and over again. Worst case scenario, you have to block the paths off so these guys don't think they can get down here while you rotate their their jobs out. But it's super simple compared to a lot of other things that I've done and seen. But anyway, that's pretty much about it for this particular area. I hope you've liked this particular design. I don't know, it kind of took me a little while to get. I play a lot of hardcore worlds over on my Twitch channel, link in the top left and in the description. And basically, I needed a way to get villagers super, super quick because my goal is to live in the end until 118 comes out. If this is way later when Minecraft versions way beyond 118 comes out, then I don't know. I hope this design still works, but we'll see. And hello to the future people. But point is, I'm still over there on Twitch. I can guarantee I'll be over there for years. So stop on by, say hi, and it'll be wonderful. But I hope you like the design. If you did, please do hit the like button. Please do stop by the Twitch channel. Please do subscribe, and feel free to comment if you have any questions, or if you just say, "Hey, dude, that's a dumb design," because I'm totally cool with that too. I don't mind because maybe I can make it better. Anyway, I will see you all later.